Well, hello, and welcome to today's webinar, all about the ServiceNow Safe Workplace Suite and how CDW can help you ensure your coworkers are coming back into the workplace safely. Really glad you could make it. I'm Mike Roberts from the ServiceNow Solutions team here at CDW, and after a few very quick messages, I'll get right to introducing our speaker, Eros Canabrava, head of our ServiceNow Solutions R&D team. Everyone will remain on mute throughout the webinar, and if you have any questions at any time, please use the Q&A box on the bottom right of your screen, and we'll make sure you get an answer. Now, the demonstration will take up the majority of the time, so don't feel like you have to wait until the end for a special Q&A moment. Just go ahead and enter your question whenever it comes up, and we'll be sure we can get to it. Your ServiceNow Solutions team at CDW is an elite partner with ServiceNow and has been in the ServiceNow space since 2013, prior to joining the CDW ranks in October of last year. And we've completed nearly 700 deployments and have an average customer satisfaction or CSAT score of 9.5 out of 10. So all that to say that you've got a proven partner here who places the highest emphasis possible on delivering you outstanding results. How we do that is on the screen here, and it's really an end-to-end best practice approach to professional services focused on helping you succeed with ServiceNow. So from advisory services and idle education to full implementations across the entire ServiceNow platform to ongoing support services like continuous improvement, staff augmentation, and even remote managed services, we're your partner for the whole journey. And now Eros Canabrava has a 20-plus year history in service management, and he's been with this team since its inception in 2013. He heads up R&D for the ServiceNow Solutions Group, which means he's all about finding new ways to serve you better. So with that, Eros, take it away.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I'm going to just briefly kind of walk you through the applications that ServiceNow has released, and then we'll jump right into the demo. So as many of you may know, back in March, ServiceNow released a set of emergency response management applications to help organizations manage the COVID-19 crisis. And those applications were extremely successful. Over 6,000 installs occurred since March. It was a free set of applications that ServiceNow released, and here at CDW, we did our part as well and implemented those applications for many of our customers free of cost. Now, what ServiceNow has released is a new set of applications that builds on many of the concepts that we saw in emergency response management. They call this new set of applications Safe Workplace Apps. And these Safe Workplace Apps are a little bit different, and they're a more robust solution, and it really tackles the problems that organizations are seeing as they try to get back to work and reopen and get kind of back into the swing of things in our new reality. So this is a paid application from ServiceNow, paid application suite, and we are going to walk you through some of the capabilities of those applications today. So if we look at these Safe Workplace Apps, there are a couple of them, and we'll touch on all of them briefly. So one of them is called Employee Readiness Surveys. This is one of two different survey applications that they released. And the idea with Employee Readiness Surveys is to go out and to gauge your employees' readiness to come back to work. So ServiceNow has a pre-built survey that you can send out, or you can construct your own surveys using a robust survey engine and then send those out to one or more employees, depending on things like employee type and things of that nature. Another survey type application that we have is what we call employee health screening. So with employee health screening, you can either ask employees to kind of report their health, or they could opt to report their health either through a survey mechanism or via like a portal on a mobile device or desktop. And unlike employee readiness, this is probably something that you would do on a daily or at least a frequent basis. So once employees are done with their shift, you might ask them to report back if they're feeling any symptoms, and then based on those results, you can determine whether or not that employee should come into work. A couple other things that we're doing here, a new application that was just released last week is contact tracing. So the idea here is to be able to determine employees that have reported symptoms or have been reported that they have tested positive for COVID-19. You could very quickly identify other employees that they may have come into contact with and then go through and take appropriate action. And we could use things like Office 365 email meetings and other things to determine employees that they may have come into contact with. Workplace safety management allows us to manage the request for spaces within work. So I'd like to come in, is there a desk available? It allows us to manage different shifts. So if you're going to have employees come in on shifts, and that's not something you usually do, you have the ability to manage all those shifts within ServiceNow. And then finally, the ability to manage activities that occur between shifts, like cleaning activities, for example. The Workplace PPE Inventory Management application is an application to allow organizations that don't typically track personal protection equipment to track personal protection equipment, including the request for that equipment and the stock levels that you have of different equipment and different equipment that you need to stock. And finally, all of that gets tied together through some safe workplace dashboards where we could quickly give you views of data by location or building or in a number of different ways so you can see how you're doing when it comes to getting back to work. Okay, now that we've gone through kind of a high-level explanation of the applications, let's go ahead and jump right into the demo. So here what we're looking at is one of the safe workplace dashboards that are out there. And what you're seeing here is the ability for us to use COVID data that's out there from a number of different sources and to display that data within dashboards and interact with that data within ServiceNow. So in this particular visualization, we're looking at cases by location, and we're looking at data that was up to date as of yesterday, I believe. So the way that works within the system is we're actually pulling that data in on a daily basis from a number of different sources. So in the United States, for example, Johns Hopkins is one of the primary sources of COVID-19 data. So each and every day, we're able to pull in by state and then county the number of new confirmed cases, the total confirmed cases, total deaths, new deaths, deaths per 100,000, your fatality ratio, et cetera, from these different data sources. And we have a global data set here. So Johns Hopkins is the US source, and then the UK has a source, et cetera. So we have sources of data from all over the world to pull it in and give you a view of what these statistics look like in your particular area. One of the things that we're able to do then is to set alerts based on this data within your dashboards. So let's say that you want to know and take action if the number of cases within your county increases day over day by more than 50%. That's an alert that you could set up within the system here under your alerts. And then when that happens, we would be notified with our dashboard or other notifications and can take action. So that's one of the things that we could do from a dashboarding perspective. What's great about these dashboards is they're like Lego pieces. So we could take this data, mix all the data together, and give you a dashboard that's relevant to your organization. So let's jump into employee health screening. So health screening is one of the applications that we talked about where an employee can come in and self-report or take a survey to report kind of how they're feeling and whether or not they might be experiencing symptoms. So as you can see here, we track that data over time. So we can see who's reporting what and where, and we can see that easily kind of over time. If employees have had access, were denied access to a building, entry requests for different locations, whether they're experiencing symptoms or not, all within kind of one dashboard for you as well. So how does that work? Well, basically, we have a request where an employee can go and they can report. So they could come here and say, I'm coming in, and in this case, actually, let me do health verification. There we go. So an employee come in and they can report. So here, what we want is the employee to acknowledge that they are not feeling any of these symptoms or have not tested positive for COVID, etc. And again, these can be configured specifically to your organization, but here's what an out-of-the-box one might look like. So here I could read the above statement and then check I acknowledge and then check submit. What's great here is that you're seeing a desktop view, but everything I'm going to show you has mobile experiences around it as well. So whether someone's on a desktop or a mobile device, the experience is virtually the same. I could come here and hit submit. And now you see I've got a QR code that shows that I've made my attestation and that I should be allowed entry into a building, for example. So that's one use case. Another use case might be requesting entry. So I could come here and I could say that I need entry to the Green Street location and I need it for Alan Mortensen. And Alan has reported that he has a temperature of, and we're going to go ahead and say it's high for a second. We'll say it's 110. And that he does not have PPE equipment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And you'll see here that entry has been denied. But if I were to go back and ask those same questions and report different results, so here I could say 89 degrees, yes, and submit. Now Adam Smith would be granted entry. And what's great here is that we can set up rules for different locations. So maybe in the state of New York, we're requiring employees to have PPE, but in Illinois, we're not requiring employees to have PPE. So depending, even though we're getting different answers, we can account for kind of the rule set for that particular location. And again, this is just a start. So if you wanted to ask more questions or different questions, we have the ability to do that as well. And then you'll see here, if we look at the entry request, I could very easily see kind of all the entry requests that have occurred and whether or not they passed or failed, whether they were granted access or not, when they were granted access, etc. So this data feeds into things like contact tracing when we get into contact tracing here. So the other thing that we feed into with this data is to allow us to then very quickly check whether or not an employee should be cleared or not, or has been cleared or not. So I could come here and select a name from a list. And I could see that Abel Cutter has been cleared here, and maybe Adam Smith doesn't have a rating, and then Adele doesn't have a rating, etc. So it just allows you to very easily check on the status of yourself or someone else to see whether they've been cleared. Maybe you should get a meeting with them or not, or whether they should be allowed into a building, for example. And as I said, you have the ability to really kind of create requirements around this. So here I've created a set of self-report requirements or employee health verification requirements. So, these requirements can be, again, based on location. They can be based on the type of employee, on whether someone's a contractor or full-time employee, the role, the building they're going into, any number of factors, and you just set up the rules that you need for that corresponding location or corresponding set of employees in here, and then the system can layer those rules to find out whether someone should be granted access or be cleared or not. So PPE, as you saw, that's another area where we have an application. So here I could see kind of all of the PPE items that have been used and everything that we have in stock, any items that are in order, in transit, in use, maybe items that are missing. I could see by individual stock room how much PPE we have in the different stock rooms. who's using all the PPE, so consumables by user, by location, etc. And you'll see here that we have a number of different classes and models of PPE, as well as our stock rooms and everything set up. I have the ability here to set up stock rules, where maybe if stock drops below a certain amount, I can go ahead and pick up additional stock. What's great here is for the employees that you have that are actually managing the PPE in the system. Again, this could be a mobile experience, or it could be something that they do on their desktop. So they can very quickly go in, add new models of PPE or new consumable stock, or assign that PPE out to someone, et cetera, all through kind of a mobile experience here or via their desktop. So it's very simple and easy to use. I could then see the individual pieces of PPE and where they are within any given location. I can get additional details on that PPE as well. And then request for PPE, I can see all of that as well. So here are all people that have requested different types of PPE. Some of them we've gone through and done the tasks we needed, and some of them are still in progress, and some of them are still open. So this is just a task. It could be as easy as someone handing somebody a mask, or maybe we want them to check it out and do an e-signature, however you want to do it. All those tasks can be organized within the system so that we're tracking all of the PPE. So workplace safety management, yet another application. So here what I'm doing is I'm keeping track of locations, and I'm doing things like capacity within that particular location. So I could see the capacity that we have in seats, and then I could see the amount of that capacity that is reservable, and then I could see the total reservations that were made. So this is for example, if we had an office and maybe we're doing kind of hoteling in the office where people don't have their own desk, but they're using kind of a temporary desk. So I can see how many spaces are available based on whatever my social distancing rules are, and then people can request those spaces and they can be assigned out. I could also have shifts here, and I could manage those shifts. I can see the number of reservations per day, the number of spaces per day. I can break that down per building. We could create whatever location hierarchy you need. So here I'm looking at USA, Colorado, and then a campus. So campus 1, for example. So this could be organized by campus, by building, by floor, by state, by city, whatever makes sense for you organizationally. You'll see here that I'm also managing cleaning tasks for this particular building. So here I can see that there are 9 unassigned cleaning tasks and 0 additional planned cleaning tasks, and then I can see whatever tasks are kind of out there, and I have the ability to add additional tasks here or to make additional reservations right from this interface. One of the cool things with reservations is, yes, of course, there's a mobile experience, but also as of last week, we now have the ability to update a PDF of the floor plan of a building and then map out our spaces to that PDF so that we can do kind of our floor planning based on actual building space blueprints. So here you'll see, for example, all of the different tasks that are out there from a cleaning perspective, and you can see that here the administrator was assigned one of these tasks and it was completed. And if I just drove down into there, you can see that these tasks can then have a checklist. So here, for example, they have a check off that they cleaned for each. And when this is done, we can have them sign this particular task. So from a compliance standpoint, we have a signature to the task was complete. Now that signature is on file, so I can certify to a particular area has been cleaned appropriately. And there you see I've got the signature now on file. Okay. I'm going to switch hats here into one of our contract tracer case managers, and that is Veronica. And you'll see here Veronica has been assigned a case to do contact tracing on. And the way that this works is cases come in from a number of different mechanisms. Maybe somebody self-reported, or maybe someone went to the doctor, tested positive, and then self-reported that way. And now based on that self-report, we want to initiate a contact trace. So the way that works is, first thing that we do is we assign a case manager. So here we assigned a case manager, and that case manager can then go and create what's called a diagnostic report. So that diagnostic report can use a number of different mechanisms to try and figure out who the affected user, in this case Brendan, has been in contact with. So maybe I'm looking at location data, so all of those entry requests to see where he's been granted entry to. Maybe I want to look at Outlook meetings, and I want to go back maybe a couple of weeks here. Let's see what we're at. Let's say for 3 weeks. So we'll go back a couple of weeks until today, and go ahead and backtrace that way. If we've got a workplace reservations app where we're reserving meeting rooms, maybe we could pull that data in. If we have badge readers or gates or thermal gates, maybe we want to pull that information in. Or maybe employees are keeping a daily log of everyone that they've been in contact with, which we could do as well. So then we pull in all of this information, and based on that diagnostics, the system then goes out and builds a list of exposed contacts. So here is everybody that we think that came into contact with Brandon over that period of time based on our diagnostics report. Now, based on this, the system can then go and create a number of cases for your contact tracers to then go and speak with these people and then make sure that they're not experiencing symptoms and that they haven't tested positive as well. And if one of them were to test positive, that then creates another case, and then we backtrace everyone that they've been in contact with, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. So to see this experience from a contact tracer perspective, let me just switch hats here again. And I'm going to switch here to Reginald, who is a contact tracer. And you'll see that Reginald has a number of tasks here. And, you know, he's already cleared one person, then everyone else here is kind of under investigation. So I could come here, let me open one of these up. And you can see that Reginald's supposed to contact this person and go through a survey, and then continue to monitor them for up to 14 days if needed. So I could come here and click on Take Survey. So I could call, what was this here? Rich is the exposed contact. So I would call Rich up. I'd speak to Rich, and I'd say, Rich, are you experiencing fever, dry cough, dizziness, etc.? So depending on how I answer this, you might say, when did you start experiencing the symptom? About a week ago. Were you in touch with your physician? Yes, etc. And there we go. So based on this, I might say, you know what? I am not going to clear Rich. Matter of fact, I'm going to flag Rich as infected. And then this would in turn spawn another contact tracing case for Rich. So I would come here and then go ahead and close this task out. And now if I look at my contact tracing cast, you'll see that Rich has been listed here as infected. And now we would go through and then do the same events with Rich to recurse through anyone that he's been into contact with, and so on and so forth. Okay, and that is what I wanted to demo for you today. We jump back to the presentation, and I have just a couple more slides that I'd like to cover with you.
Hey, Eros, I'll go ahead and ask a question real quick, because you just covered the contact tracing app. And the question was, and just as a reminder to everyone, you don't have to wait for a special section at the end, because we'll probably go right at the time, but that's the end of your question. So the question was, does contact tracing utilize any proximity technology, such as Bluetooth or GPS, to identify folks who are standing close to each other for extended periods of time?
So we're going to cover that on the next slide. So contact
Oh,
tracing itself does not, but what you'll see on the next slide is to create true to end-to-end solutions here, and I'll jump back. To create true end-to-end solutions here, it really takes more than just ServiceNow. And because of that, CDW is working with a number of different vendors that have a number of technologies to help you create an end-to-end solution. So we're working with indoor positioning systems, which do exactly what you said. So we could track the position of users, to tell how many users are in a room, to maybe make sure that we're enforcing occupancy rules, or to see if users have been too close to each other for an extended period of time. We're also working with things like thermal gates to be able to tell someone's temperature when they walk through a gate, visitor management systems to automatically see where users have been based on badge swipes, facial recognition systems, so we can go back and contact trace based on facial recognition and who the cameras have captured the user in contact with, and then finally big data analysis. So we tie thousands and thousands of events together and are able to scrub through those events very, very quickly in order to give you results. So let's talk about that from an implementation standpoint. And what you'll see here is that we are prepared to work with you to implement this very, very quickly. So we're using an agile-based approach where you are up and running with a minimum viable products within days, and you are up and running with a full-fledged, obtainable, integrated, highly advanced, safe-to-workplace solution in just a matter of weeks. So the whole thing here could take anywhere from 1 week to 4 weeks, depending on your organization's particular needs. And we are almost at time. So based on that, please, if you have any questions, if you'd like a follow-up demo, if you want to talk to one of our experts, please feel free to reach out to either Jim Sexkey, John Manna, or myself, and we'll be happy to follow up with you and answer any questions that you might have.
I do have one more here, Eros, and I think you kind of touched on this, but maybe it would bear repeating. Do the mobile apps come with the desktop app?
They absolutely do. So the mobile solution and the desktop solution are all part of the application suite.
Okay, great. So it's a bundle package.
Exactly.
You can give it just another minute or so. So certainly can end the minute or two early, but if there's anyone else has a question, use the Q&A box over the bottom right of your screen, and we'll give it a moment here. Eros, really appreciate you going through this and taking the time to get as up to speed as you are on each of these and how they integrate together. We're certainly all now in this phase of figuring out how to start getting back to this new normal, and it's amazing the role that technology, the escalated role, I should say, of technology in all of this, and particularly this next phase of it, is going to be as much, if not even more so, the case.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
All right, so let's say we don't have any other questions, so we really appreciate that you were able to join us today. As Eros has said, reach out to us with any other questions that you have. We are happy to answer them. We're here for you, and have a great rest of the day and rest of the week.